All right, there we go. Go live. Okay, it says we've got an excellent connection, and good morning, Michael and Corey. Good to see you guys here. You beat me. You beat me on screen, so this is going to be a shorter one again. Last week, a lot of stuff was going on. So number one, our studio move and our home move is actually underway finally. So it's been a stressful couple of weeks getting to this point, but we started moving things out over the weekend. And I gotta say, the new studio room actually isn't as big as this room. I thought the new one was a little bigger, so I'm gonna be playing with some rearranging. And once we get everything set up, I'm gonna take you through on a studio tour just to show you what's going on. Now, last week I had said that I was going to be doing a new video and showing you some stuff from a client shoot for last week. That client shoot was supposed to be last Wednesday. Unfortunately, I got a call from them after Monday's live stream to let me know that one of their vendors was behind and something they wanted to do with the aerial photography, video, and then still photography on the ground as well. They couldn't do because another vendor had failed to deliver in time. So we had to postpone the flight and the shoot till this week, and it's supposed to be on Wednesday of this week. But now it looks like we're going to have rain and snow coming in starting tomorrow. So, by the way, I don't know if you like my screen bumper today. Did you just drunk dial me? But I put this one together yesterday, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. So this week we're supposed to have a flight on Wednesday. We'll see how that goes, and it's going to be myself and my lighting assistant, because we're not only doing some aerial stuff for this company, we're going to be doing some portraiture from a unique location. But if it's going to be rainy and windy on Wednesday, it's probably going to get pushed back again. So one time due to their vendor and one time due to the weather. And that is a difficult thing for all of us drone pilots, right? Working around the weather. So good morning, Ray. How are you doing? So good to see everybody popping in this morning. I was just saying to other folks who might not have, who already joined the channel, I should say, that that there's going to be some moving and stuff going on this week for sure. And then also coordinating internet access, because we found that the new home doesn't have any coax cable connectors anywhere in the house. So we've got to figure out how to get the network in. In the meantime, that might impact a couple of uploads. And for those of you on the Patreon channel, I'm going to be doing another video this week just for patrons only of the disaster that is the interior as it comes together for the new place and getting everything set up. And then we'll do a tour for everybody once we're all set up. So let's talk about the drunk dial me. Let me see who else is all over there. All right, good deal, Ray. Glad to see everybody on here this morning. So I'm half asleep. We've literally been running around bringing stuff back and forth and getting everything ready, and donation piles and things to go in the garbage. We all accumulate a lot of stuff, don't we? But yesterday, while I was working on getting things moved, I got a phone call from a Sedona phone number. So I decided to take it because, it's more local. I get a lot of weird calls every week at my business. Not just at AZ Drone, but also at RLC Design Services. And so RLC Design Services is my overall company, and this is where we do some of our outreach for potential web clients. We don't have a million different web clients. We've got a select pool of web clients that fit within what we do for a business, and they're folks that we've actually gone through a lot of discovery process with, and we understand their businesses. If you're building websites for other people, and you don't know about the business that they're in, you need to get a lot of information from them to pull together an informative site that encourages people to use their services. So we do have select customers that we deal with on a yearly basis for additional website design and for ongoing maintenance. So I've got two different websites that are all about getting people to contact me. So, even when I see unusual phone numbers, I try to take a lot of them. If they just say that the call is from the USA, I don't know if you guys have ever gotten those phone calls. Usually I let those go to voicemail and we see if they're for real. But so yesterday, while packing up, I got a phone call from the Sedona area right around lunchtime, and a gentleman with a British accent who then didn't have a British accent and then did have a British accent started inquiring about building a website and what I would charge for building the website. And so my initial question to him was, well, what's the website supposed to be about? And he said, well, I need a website and an app. So he wanted a website and an app. So that's great. I actually have done a couple of iOS apps over the years, and but I'm not an app developer. We're not calling Rich to be an app developer because it'll take me too long now. Previously, years ago, yes, it would have been easier, but at this point, no, I haven't kept up with things in a couple of years. But so the big question, what do you want this app developed for and this website developed for that you want to know a price for? So the gentleman started explaining to me that he's interested in doing a website for vacation properties in the Sedona area. And of course, there's a lot of Airbnb listings in Sedona and Prescott and in our surrounding areas. So a lot of homes have been turned into Airbnbs or straight up B&Bs. So the gentleman started explaining to me, basically he was wanting to be a portal for folks in the Sedona area to find their vacation properties. He didn't have any properties yet. He had a property of his own, and so he wanted to list that, but then he wanted to start listing for other people. And he wanted to charge them 20%, 30% of delivering those potential customers, those vacationers. And so my first thought when people call me about a service that already exists, Airbnb exists, and making a competitive website against a big group like Airbnb, who's got a lot of advertising revenue and things behind them, and the rental revenue, and they have a well thought out product, and trying to make a small website, while it's admirable, yes, you can still compete in different markets, but he wanted to be right up on the front of Google searches right away. So of course, that would be Google's AdSense. So as we're having the conversation, I'm just asking myself, he's bouncing between a British accent and a US accent. And good morning. Good morning, Clearline. Good to see you. Sorry, I had to look over there. By the way, when I reset the studio, we're going to redo where the mic's at so that I don't have to keep going over and away from the mic that way. So I've got some ideas, and we'll get there. So he started really getting into depth that he's done corporate condo rentals before, and all these other experiences that lead him to believe that that he could in fact resell his service. So I asked him, I said, right now, what can you demonstrate to folks who might potentially want to list with you? And at the moment, he's got nothing. So, and then the big part came in, and he said he wants to do all of this. So he wants a full-fledged app for looking for reservations in Sedona, combined with a website presence, and he'd like to do it all under $2,000. Oh, I'm sorry. So Airbnb has a giant presence, and they've been business building for quite some time. They've got a huge development staff. They've got a huge marketing staff. They have people who really know the ins and outs of things like these vacation rentals. And to try to be competitive with a site like that and show that you would be a good place to list for $2,000 or under, very, very unrealistic. So we continued the conversation, and he started talking about owning a particular rental property that was left to him by a family member, so he understands that. And then he started getting into the fact that he's a student in philosophy and psychology. But earlier in the call, he was a person who was renting out corporate condos. So I wasn't quite certain. And so you do get these types of calls. And the lesson from this call isn't to bag on somebody. You never know who a real legitimate customer is until you really have a conversation with them. So cutting them off quickly, being disinterested, not being engaged, If you're not in the mood for what could be a crank call, don't answer it and let your voicemail handle it. And then from there, you can make a decision afterward if you want to get back in touch with them. I remember back in the day living in New Hampshire when I was a younger guy and was a network engineer and was doing really well financially, going to purchase a new laptop for myself back in the late 90s, and went into a Circuit City, and I was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. It was the weekend, and so I didn't look like your typical moneyed customer. And my ex-wife was also there with me looking for a laptop for herself as well for the business she was in. And we could not get a single salesperson's attention. We were both dressed down, but not terribly. There were several employees who were all circling an elderly gentleman who was in his Sunday's best, and he was looking in the CD collections, and there's 3 different guys around him, all trying to help him. And we couldn't, we could have lit ourselves on fire in the computer area of the Circuit City, and nobody would have noticed us. So when we headed out of the building, I did find the manager and let him know that we had $5,000 cash on us because we were both going to be getting new laptops that day. So we went elsewhere afterward. So just because they don't look like your most qualified customer doesn't mean they couldn't be a really great customer. Let me take a look over and see what Ray's got. All that for under 2K. He's got 2 hopes, Bob Hope and No Hope. Yeah, no, it was pretty funny, Ray. But as the conversation went on, he shifted who he was and what he was about, and there was a hint of did somebody have some early cocktails? So, and that's not to be mean. But it was funny. And afterward, I got off the phone and Jody was like, "So was it a serious one?" And I was like, "No, I think I just got drunk dialed." So there you go. So RLC Design Services, we work with multiple RV resorts in Arizona and Colorado. And we've got some other clients in Colorado and Massachusetts and Georgia. But we don't have a giant pool, and I'm not out trying to get a giant pool of clients. So we actually do let people know before we sit down. We have some ideas of how we like to do a discovery process with people, and it's a similar discovery process to how you find out what your drone clients really want. When someone calls and just asks you for a price, you need more information because, what Ray just said, for 2K, there's Bob Hope and No Hope. You need to find out what their expectations are, and if you can meet those expectations, and then you need to give them a realistic idea of pricing, and the same goes for our drone work. And so over on AZ Drone, I got a real contact yesterday, which I'll be getting back to today, a gentleman in Cave Creek. But just to follow up on the drunk dials, several weeks ago, I was out at a client location. I was in between what I was doing for the work for them, so it was some shooting and some aerial work, and the drone was down, and a call came in, so I decided to take the call. It was a local Prescott number, and once again, it was another gentleman who, it was coming up before lunchtime, but it definitely sounded like a couple of cocktails, and he was hoping that we could come out to Groom Creek. It's a recreation area heading south out of Prescott, near Goldwater Lake, and so some interesting trail systems there, part of the Prescott Circle Trail system. And this gentleman wanted to know if I could be out at Groom Creek really soon, same day, to film him and his friend hiking on one of the trails in a densely forested area. And so I didn't even know the exact location. He just wanted to know if I could get there and what the price was. And so I let that person know I'm actually on a customer job site right now, which he got kind of indignant with. And he said, "So you can't get over there?" And no, I can't get over there, and I don't even really know what you want to do, other than you would like the drone to fly in this forested area while you're hiking on a trail. Where are we going? What do we want? Low-level flights in between the trees, doing some kind of auto tracking, and I suggested that later in the week we could do something with them, weather permitting. And that just was not acceptable. It needed to be now, it needed to be today, and it needed to be me stopping the job I was already working on to go out to do some kind of strange forest flight. So I did take a pass on that one as well. I usually get a couple of strange contacts each month, several each month. I've had contacts from Texas that wanted me to film an area down in the Casa Grande area, some open land, and I talked about that on a previous stream or a previous video about the fake drone contacts and how these people are trying to play the game of I'll give you a check and then you take part of that check and pay my architect and pay my builder, and suddenly you start realizing this is one of those scams that not only affect drone pilots, but they really focus heavily on the wedding market as well. And so what they suggest is I'm going to cut you a check for $8,000, but you're only charging me $6,000, so I need you to give $2,000 to my architect today, or my DJ, or my caterer, whatever it is. So they're going to get the check in the mail to you, but in the meantime, you need to get the check in the mail to their fake friend who's the caterer. So you really do have to pay attention to the emails that come in and to the phone calls that come in. And be honest and let people know, because I told this guy yesterday, I said, I like to have a longer conversation. All of you guys on channel know I like to have a longer conversation. All right, picking on myself. But I do need to get more information out of people. So years ago, I signed up for a class. Didn't have anything to do with website building. It had to do with getting website customers, the You Gurus program. So I actually fully enrolled in their class series, and it was great and it was useful, and it did help me get new clients. And one of the big things that they talk about throughout their classes is their discovery process, and the fact that it's not a one phone call and give somebody a price. You schedule several meetings. You delineate, what it is they do want, what it is they don't want, and see if you can discover any other expectations. Like yesterday's caller, the fact that not only did they want a website, but they also wanted an app. I've had conversations with current clients and previous clients who wanted SEO but didn't want to pay for SEO. So then they wanted to know, well, how do people find me? Well, if you're not doing search engine optimization, if you're not writing meaningful content, the other thing you can do is the Google AdWords programs, where you are paying for Google to put you in the top listing as one of those ads that comes up. So like Prescott B&B, let's see what we have here. So we've got an ad right at the top. So this is an ad, so this is AdSense. And if I click on this, this is going to cost those people a little bit of money. So this is from Expedia. But so if I do a click here, they're going to have to pay for the click. Maybe it's 25 cents, maybe it's $1, maybe it's $2, depending on the obscurity of the search. But so we've got the first two things that come up for Prescott B&B is Expedia.com and Airbnb. Boom, they come right up. And they're both advertisements, so they are paying for those clicks. If I scroll down, all right, after that, we're not worrying about the pay-per-click. So here we have a legitimate one, Prescott Pines. They've been in business for quite some time. I knew the previous owners, as a matter of fact, and we did a shoot for them. But they have since sold that. Watson Lake Inn, we actually helped them develop their initial website. They maintain the website themselves, and occasionally they call on us for the heavy lifting, but overall, they're actually working and maintaining that site, and they've got an online reservation system and everything. So when I had a conversation with them, they knew that they wanted a reservation system, and that immediately brings the price up. Good morning, Bruce. How are you doing? Sorry for not looking over sooner. I'm glad to have you on here this morning. So, and I wasn't showing you Prescott B&Bs because I want to say, hey, look, Rich made Watson Lake Inn. Totally forgot about that. But I was just giving you the idea that number one, these paid for ads from the bigger groups are going to come up. So you need to find out from the clients that you're building sites with, what kind of expectations do you have, and how long before you come up in searches are you willing to wait? So the folks over at Watson Lake, when we started their website, it was several years ago in the spring. They had just purchased the property. They were moving out there. One of the owners, he is a known chef and a known chef who teaches as well. So not only did they have the B&B angle, they had a high-end chef who actually taught classes at the B&B as well. And they wanted to be, at the top of the search results as quickly as possible. And I let them know it was going to take a couple months, just doing organic searches for them. So now we find them on the front page. So just a couple of listings in. So they've done a good job. And we did that good initial job for them of structuring it. But that took time, and that took multiple discovery sessions. They didn't realize that there was more behind having online reservations and cancellations and monitoring the website. So I had to explain to them that our fee for building it, we could do monitoring for them as well at X dollars per month. And they really didn't want to do that. They didn't want to spend any more money, which I understand. So I said to them, well, then you watch and maintain your website. And occasionally they've forgotten to, check security updates and stuff, and they'll get in touch with me to help clean up messes and issues. But, the big thing is when you're building a website is that it is not set it and forget it. So you should think about that when building your drone websites. Now, the same discovery process I lean on pretty heavily for my drone clients. And I think I lost a potential client last week. I haven't heard back from them because I had a series of questions for them that I needed answered. And all they wanted to know was what was the price to fly some acreage for them. Well, they were talking about several thousand acres over the course of different months for different purposes. So some video flights, some still flights, documentation of properties, but they couldn't give me average parcel sizes, a schedule of when they wanted these things done, because we're up here in Prescott and their location was a little over 2 hours away. So that's 4 hours of drive time plus flight time of these locations, and not knowing how many parcels I'd be shooting or filming. So I had the big list of questions for them, and they had gotten back with some questions but not answered all the questions. And I'm not going to neurotically pursue them because I did get the distinct feeling they weren't really certain of what it was they wanted, but they really, 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 really wanted a price from me without telling me the product they wanted. I always use cars as an example. If someone were to call a car dealership and say, what's the price of a car? No other descriptions, just what's the price of a car? Well, remember how cheap Yugos were? So a Yugo is a car. And then I had a beautiful off-road Jeep back in New Hampshire. And that also was a vehicle, and you could call it a car. Some people would call it a car. Most would call it a Jeep. But the price difference between a Yugo and a Jeep was massive, right? So the same can be said of the jobs that you're doing in flight or stills on the ground for people. You need more information. If you're going to have me fly a 10-acre property every day, so you're going to have me employed 7 days a week for one 10-acre property with one ortho mosaic, that price is going to be different than if you have me shoot several hundred acres at a time or spend a day to get over 1,000 acres at a time. And it's also going to impact my decisions as to whether or not the equipment that I have is going to work well or not. So when you're talking to your potential clients, make sure you do some discovery and go ahead and explain it to them up front. I need a little more information before I can give you an honest quote on what we're going to be doing. Just like that Drunk Dial $2,000 website and web application. They'll never find anybody to do that. And by the way, so the gentleman had also suggested, well, maybe I should look into some of the Indian developers. And I said, absolutely. I'm going to tell you one more personal story today since we didn't have any flights. I'm going to show you a couple other things, and then we're going to wrap up. But this is a story that picks on a good friend of mine. And hey, Josh. So years ago, a friend of mine contacted me because they were looking to redevelop their website and do a web application. So we had a series of serious conversations when I was still more into that side of the house. And after we had reviewed everything for for the application that he wanted, I quoted him in the range that it would be around the $14,000 range. And that was a realistic quote for the time, what they wanted, just a simple iOS app that ties back into their mobile website. So quoted him $14,000 and he kind of choked. And I kind of expected that he was going to choke because he always liked getting lower prices on things. And hey, don't we all? But so he let me know. He said he was going to offshore and use an Indian development company to develop the web application for him. And over the course of several months, he got in touch with me because while they came in at a much cheaper hourly rate, their design teams kept changing week by week. So they'd start working on something and a new lead developer would be brought in. The new lead developer would make some changes, do some things with their coding, and then it would get handed off to another developer and another developer and another developer. I'm not kidding. Because the final call he gave me about the whole situation was well over a year later and nearly $30,000 spent out of pocket. So when we went through our discovery on what he was looking to do and the quote that I had given him, which was a very realistic quote for time involved for the information that he wanted on it, he spent more than double of what I had initially quoted and never received a final product. So there's one more real life example. So just checking over on the right hand side, and like today is a casual day. So by the way, if you have any questions when I'm doing any of these streams, if you have questions, just go ahead and let me know. I'm going to minimize this one here, but I thought you'd find some interest in that. And then I wanted to show you one last thing and talk to you about a snag that I'm running into. So by the way, we're going to be doing 2 real estate photo shoots in the near future with the drones and 360 walkthroughs. And then I'm also going to be featuring the place that we're moving into, which is what we're looking at on screen here. And I actually ran into a bump the other day as I was getting ready to start moving some things in. So we're getting some stuff in early and ahead of time. So the new landlord, that's really great of him, giving us a little flexibility on getting stuff in and just piling things in the center of rooms. We won't show you those photos. But I bumped into a problem. So I decided in this empty space that I was going to use the Theta Z1 on the interiors and that I was going to use the multi-bracketing mode, which I'm still going with. But the multi-bracketing mode's a little more sensitive when seaming things together is what I found. So over here where the hand tool is, you might see a little divot in the doorway there. So things didn't line up perfectly in PT GUI, unfortunately. So I'm going to be going back and redoing these because I kept all of the exposures. But I had noticed a couple of things that kept cropping up for me. Number one, in big wide open rooms with flat walls, you really got to make sure that you're angling your 360 camera not fully into that flat wall, because let me tell you, it's really hard to match points on a big open canvas. So you've got to make sure that, you know, if your camera is facing this way and this way, if you have a big flat void here or behind you, it's going to have a much harder time stitching. So I was not my own fault, user error, and that's why we practice. But I wasn't really paying attention to where the lenses were pointed at. I was paying very close attention to where I was plopping my monopod while I was doing all the shoots. So, you know, I knew what I was showing off in the room and I could see that, but I wasn't paying attention to those edge lines. So one of the really nice things with a lot of the 360 cameras out there is that we can use and control them from our smartphones, which gives us a preview usually. And so that preview, when you're looking in that preview window, you want to see this edge and that edge. You want to see that there are some items that can cross over on each other a little bit to make sure that those control points are matched up. It's kind of like in our drone flights when we're doing 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional modeling. How much overlap do we put into those models? The more overlap we have, the more opportunity there is for better control points, right? So if we don't have a lot of overlap on one of our flights, maybe this is a quickie flight and we're not worried about measurements or anything. It's just to give people a bird's eye view of the overall property. Then maybe we don't have to do major overlap with our drones. But if we're getting into 3D models or really intense 2D orthomosaic models, maybe we do want to have a lot more overlap. Well, something we can't choose in a camera like the Theta Z1 is overlap. So it's got its fixed shooting area. It's going to give you that 360. And we can't say, boy, I'd like you to overlap this wall a little more. We don't have that option. So when we're doing our initial 360 setups for interiors, we really need to check those edges and see if there's a couple of things that we can line it up on. Let me see what Ray's got over here. Moving survival box, one box of coffee, milk, toilet, and movable. Yeah, no, I've been leaving a couple things over there now, Ray. So it's actually this week I'm gonna put some snacks and things in there too. But we should be getting everything done by next weekend. In the meantime, it's also interfering with the schedule here because my main desk here and our network connections here. So basically the studio room is going to get moved last, and then we might be without internet for a couple days. Fortunately, I do have the Wi-Fi hotspots on my Verizon business plan, so I can use that. But I'm not going to be uploading a ton of new videos. So there we go on this particular one. Let's go take a look at that layer. So of course I'm in Affinity for just looking at the 360s quickly. So Affinity has now become my go-to for the 360s indoor and outdoors. The one other thing I want to say, so the problem that I was running into with these seams, you can see it right there. Let's bring that in. So look at that bad seaming right there. That's something I can easily deal with in PT GUI, but I figured I'd show this to you guys just to let you know the things to watch out for. Now, also in the automated modes on the Z1, when you do their automatic HDR or their automatic regular, the seaming happens in the camera, and usually it seems to be a little easier and quicker when it's done in the camera. But if we want to really show dynamic range of areas, then that multi-bracketing is the better way to go. So I'm just going to pull this back out again. But so yeah, I just wanted to show you what can happen if you're not paying attention to your edges. So if you're using one of these cameras, whether it's a 1X or the Z1 or one of the other Ricos, check those edges. Make sure that there's some common points in there. Make sure that there's something that's going to jump out that helps your stitching software say, this isn't just a big flat blank wall. Right in the middle of it are a couple of screws, and there's an outlet, and there's another outlet. Okay, that edge with those overlapping outlets might do a good thing for you. Yes, so Michael, I do actually go in and add additional control points if I need to. Sometimes they just come out extremely perfect right away. But if I'm not so happy with them, and I'm going to be doing a bigger, longer thing about the Z1. I've already loaded a bunch of videos over to Teachable. I'm already about a quarter of the way into the class. It's a deep dive on using the Theta Z1 for interior walkthroughs. So that video is going to be coming up over on the Teachable site probably somewhere in February. Once we get this move sorted out, we'll know. And so I will also be talking about PT GUI because I'm a big fan of PT GUI. I've been using it before the Theta Z1 was ever out. I've been using it with my drones previously. So I actually got PT GUI as it was either a birthday or Christmas present a couple years ago. But I'm so glad I have it. So let me go ahead and close this one out. Don't save it. And we'll just take a look at another one to see if that one was problematic. And yes, this one was absolutely problematic. And we've got some other problems with it too. Once again, I was racing through doing this for myself. There will be a final version once the place is done. But if we look over here in the closet area, it ran into some problems once again. If I go down to that live projection again, so let's go ahead and look away. So that's the washer dryer room, by the way. And I was also sticking this in corners on purpose. So I did other shots. But so just entering into a room and trying to shoot that whole room from an entryway, I'm finding it can become problematic very quickly. So here we go right here. You can actually see that bad stitch right in there. And so, Michael, your answer to your question, where I had the camera placed, the edges were right about in here. So this little 2x4 board was one of the control point areas that I was using to reference. The problem came in since we were kind of seaming right in here, it got problematic over to this wall because there's not a lot going on. So the other seam was happening right here on this light switch, and the seam next to it was just a little over. So you barely had an area to manually match those 2 points. So when I'm going into properties moving forward, since I got to do a lot of testing on this empty house, I'm going to make sure that we're not right in doorways, that we're moving into the room. I know that moving into it makes the room look a little smaller as we're panning around, but I want these to be clean. I want these to be a really good representation of the interiors. You can see that we've got some really consistent color going on and consistent white balance going on. So all of that was going really well. So my biggest issue was those doors and corners. Gosh, that makes me think about the TV series The Expanse. So if that made you think of it too, good for you. All right, let's just take a look at one more. So when we get the entire place settled, we're going to shoot it as, you know, a new move-in. And so as you can see in this one, it didn't break anything in the hallway. So that was really nice. So it was just in specific circumstances, especially in the living room area, because living room's got some pretty flat, empty walls. So here we are entering into the living room, and the shots in the center here were the problem ones. I think this one actually came out all right. Let's take a look at it. So once again, for those of you who are just tuning in, next week we will have a drone flight and a client shoot. That was pushed out last week, so hopefully this Wednesday we'll be doing that shoot, and I'll be doing a video about it. If the bad weather that's promised for Arizona is rolling in this week, then it's probably going to be another postponement. So the first postponement was the clients. The second one would be us due to weather. So looking around this one, yeah, it didn't break anything here. Let's see. I hope I'm not making you motion sick while I'm doing this. Apologies if I am. So this one came out nicely, and that worked well from the hallway into the living room. But you can see this living room, number one, those on our drapes, they're going. But you can see in the living room, this wall, not a lot of stuff going on there, but we do have that window, so most likely we're going to have some good reference points there. It's, don't save that one. All right, so here we are in that living room area. And so, you know, you're watching out for those flat walls. You're looking for things that are going to be referencing, and those are the things that you want on the edges. If you've got big blank walls, if you can get them centered, but make sure that you've got some detailed stuff on those edges, you're going to have a much better time. So let's take a look at that one really quick. And for those of you who tuned in the other week, you saw me build a Kula tour. One thing that you didn't see on that Kula tour was that I actually added some voiceover files on that as well. So when we finish getting moved into here, I'm going to do a full walkthrough of the building, and we're also going to show a couple of great features that work on Kula. So we're going to build a more than complete tour through this home, and we're going to use some of the higher end functions that Kula has to offer, which most of the other vendors do as well. So whatever tool you're using is probably great. I mean, most of these do a really good job. So let me, okay, not missing anybody else. Here's a really bad one. So this was in the bedroom number one, and you can see right over in here where the hand is, that split is really bad, so I need to go back on that one. But also take note that there's not much going on those edges, so that is also my fault. Look at that. Look at how bad that seamed in there, but look at how much we have to reference, because I think our reference area was right in here. So we got a light switch here, and that light switch didn't even show through to the other seam, so I couldn't use this to match up control points. And these power outlets down here, these outlets, weren't right on the edge either, so I hit it really bad. Could I fix this in PT GUI and not reshoot it? Yes, I can mess around in there for a while, but I've got to get something as an additional reference point. So that's why I say check those edges every time, and take it from me, because I totally messed up with this. When I was looking through these, I was fairly disappointed. All of the exposures were actually pretty good in the multi-bracketing, and I was playing around with some white balance and things as well, setting the white balance in the camera. So those things made me pretty happy. But once again, we can see we've got this big blank open wall here, and look where things broke. So where I had it seaming, because I wasn't paying close enough attention, look at this slice right through the power outlet there. So literally my seam was somewhere right in here. And so the seam on one side got the switch, but did not get the whole power outlet. So we're missing some things to match up on. So use your smartphone. So one of the things with the Ricoh Theta Z1 is that you can post it on a monopod, not connect your smartphone to it, and you can just take shots from it and you can put it on timers. But you're not getting to see those edges at all. So it's got this little screen down at the bottom. You're not seeing images on that little screen. And so you don't know, where's my seam line going to be, and is there some reference materials on either side of it? And so I nailed myself right here. What I should have done is actually angled that edge back a little more to get half of a window here and half of a window there. I always know that when I get window corners and things, I've got great places to match stuff up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that one up. I don't think, oh yeah, there's the master bed. Let's take a look at that one because I did a couple of shots in there. And I decided to put the ceiling fan right above me for one of the shots. And this one came out nice and clean with no extra control points worried about. And of course, I forgot to turn off chromatic aberrations because I was in moving mode, not really in shooting mode. But so this one, once again, we've got some blank walls going on. But if we look around, this would be a good area to seam in because we can match corners very nicely. And same thing with the other bedroom, we can match the corners very nicely. So I would want my seam edges, either on something like this that has things going on, as long as we've got some corners to match up. And so PT GUI does a good job. And actually right there is a problem. Do you see that little seam line? I thought I had one in there. So it got a little unhappy with this one right here. So when we're all done with the house move-in, we're going to do a new walkthrough of this, and we're going to take you through the whole process of how this one comes together. Dad, can I come home? Patrick. Well, hello, Patrick. Nice to meet you. Well, all right, everyone. I'm going to be wrapping up here for the morning, and I literally have a bunch of crates sitting in the next room to load into the truck. So I hope today's little thing about the drunk dials and odd calls that you might get for your small business was a little bit of fun, and that you enjoyed that. And like I said at the beginning of that, sometimes you'll get a contact that sounds a little strange, but in all honesty, it turns out that they're a real contact. So don't be dismissive when you first get that weird call. Go ahead and use your listening skills for a few minutes and see if they're actually serious and if you can work with them. So sorry, just a little distracted off screen right there. You're welcome, Michael. And as always, everyone, thanks for stopping by. If you like this video, go down and give a like and subscribe. And like I said, next week, we're probably going to have some more active presentation stuff again, and maybe even some video and imaging from the field. Cross your fingers on the weather this week. I really would like to get this client shoot done on Wednesday, but it looks like Tuesday is going to be really bad. Wednesday, so. Thursday, we're looking at snow and stuff. It was 61 the other day, and so now we're thinking about snow again. Arizona is a wild place, but everywhere's got wild weather. All right, everyone, off to pack the truck up and get back into the moving mode again. Have a great start to the week, and we'll see you at the latest next Monday. We might do another stream here before then, of course. All right. You're welcome, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for coming in this morning.